we could all rise for the pledge, please. Diane, could you lead us in the pledge?
I'd love to. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our first responders, our veterans, those fighting the good fight in Ukraine, and those suffering in the military conflict in the Middle East. Thank you. Sal, do we have anybody?
Nobody, Mr. Mayor,
Full
the
participation.
sign out for the speakers.
Okay. What I'd like to do is for the town council is to reconvene the joint council meeting.
Second.
Okay, Walter?
Reconvene the Board of Finance.
Second.
Okay. We're gonna make a little bit of changes on the agenda items for tonight in order. We're gonna start with Bill Murphy from the Building Committee. Bill? And for everyone on the Building Committee, Building Department, will Bill get ready for his slide presentation? And then as far as revenue budget numbers, that is page 24. Expenditures are 133.
Thank you. Ready? Hi, everybody. My name's Bill Murphy. I'm the billing official for the town of New Milford. Just a little quick history. My first slide, our first 6 months when we started here in 1968, we took in 213 permits in the first 6 months. The last 6 months in our department, we did 1,418 permits. So we've grown a lot from the beginning. And I had one little nugget. The first 4 building permits ever issued in New Milford were for a single-family house. The fifth permit was the first commercial permit ever issued in New Milford, and it was for a barn, and it was for Mr. Gambino.
That's right.
So, little history lesson.
That's for sure.
The 5th one was for Stanley's Diner, so you beat him by like a month. So these are our stats from the last 6 months. You know, we're still really robust with permitting and inspections. It's running along the same as last year. You know, we haven't had any. I'd say the only slow spell we had was maybe when we had snow last week, a day or two. It's still every day going. And our budget, our personnel line, it's just up a tad from last year with no new employees, you know, but they have the contract raises.
Expenditures are 133, page 133. Thanks,
Yeah.
Bill.
Our overtime is staying the same, and our materials are staying the same. We don't have anything new on the materials. We did get this year, IT got my assistant a new laptop with a docking station, and he tried to give me one, and I have an 8-year-old iPad, and I said, I want to keep it another year because I like it so much. So, that covers us for you know, office materials and code books, and we have some small memberships with the International Code Council. That's pretty much it. We're still going crazy with work, and I don't see any end in sight. We'll have to see what this year brings, you know. So the only thing I would say, some of the multifamily we've had going, we're doing a lot of extra inspections on it. We've set up a policy with some pre-construction meetings, so you know, we can meet with all the subcontractors as they start their different stages, so you know, nothing gets out of hand. So the 2 we got going now are, I mean, they're going along pretty good, but they're both well-built buildings. So that's helped a lot. Meet the guys early and go through stuff before they make any mistakes. But you know, houses are still coming in. you know, it's nothing crazy, but they just keep, we got another one last week. So, it's steady. So,
On the expenditures. Alex?
That's my question, is roughly out of all those permits, how many are new dwellings versus new roofs, repairs, remodeling?
I would say we're probably averaging somewhere around 60 houses a year, maybe 70. Nothing, I don't want to say that's not crazy, but back in the 90s, we were doing 150 or plus a year.
Got it.
You know, I'd say around 60. The thing is, everything that's being built is on shovel-ready land, lots. Nobody's doing any new, at this time, new subdivisions. They don't really want to do the guys around here really aren't set up for the infrastructure to go in and cut roads in and stuff. But we've had some lots, like we have 5 houses in Perry Drive that the guy's building on. It's literally ledge. And those lots have been there forever. And he's finishing up his 5th. The guy was an excavator, and he had a construction company, so he had the machines to work the land a little more. So he got 5 houses in there, so.
And I know, Bill, when we spoke, if you go back to the year 2015, 2016, I mean, it was maybe 4 houses, 5 houses.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that between 2008 and almost the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't have much for housing. You know, it was drip and drab, that's a long time, you know, so, but again, I think unless the Toll Brothers or one of those companies come in and picks up a plot of land or a subdivision, I think it's just gonna keep going along at this pace. But, you know, one thing about the numbers that helps us is the cost of construction is up. You know, we started, when solar panels first started, we were getting like a construction value of 15,000. Now they're averaging about 60 with the Tesla battery backups and all the add-ons. They've really gone up. And we permit about a solar panel a day, and we have for the past 4 years. So that's increased our revenue too, just off of them. So.
Any other questions for Bill? Thank you, Bill.
All right, thanks,
Appreciate it
everybody.
very much. Chris?
Yeah, so, Bill, thanks for the presentation. I'm looking at the numbers, the actuals from 2022, 2023, where we're at for 6 months of 24, and I'm wondering, because the revenue number seems like it might be a little low. Are things slowing down, or are we just being real conservative there?
I think they're not going to match last year's. I don't believe. We ended up last year we were
700.
yeah 775,000. We did hit, like 2 weeks ago. We hit our revenue estimate for the year. We went past 475. So we cleared that with a couple of months to go. But, you know, it all depends what comes in and when it comes in. You know, a lot of these projects that are going on now are multi-million, you know, the apartment houses, the storage building, and then there's a couple other places. Even we get a couple of good renovations on the lake. You get a multi-million, they really help with our revenue. So it's kind of scattered, but I mean, we got a few months left in the budget year here, and that's beginning of another construction season. So,
And Chris, when I talked to Bill and we were looking at the budget, we're forecasting out, as we all know, for this type of budget, up to 16, 18 months out when you go year over year.
Right.
And, you know, we don't know where interest rates are going to be, don't know cost of materials and goods. So, in speaking with Bill, and I actually bumped it up a little bit from previous numbers, just to make sure that we didn't want to come in with a higher expectation and then come back to the taxpayer with less revenue, which means we got to figure out a way to compensate for that in the budget.
yeah, we last year and this year we put in for a revenue of 475, and I blew past it this year. Next year, when things settle down a little bit, I think we're gonna be reaching for 475. That'll be a number we're reaching at. So, I really would be skeptical to, jump it up to a 5 or 550 and then have projects not come in.
Right.
So, but.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Any other questions?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you to the team. Next, what I'd like to do is have Ivana come up, because I know Ivana has a very important engagement to get to.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ivana Social Services, and that's 173.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time. I want to take a few moments to go over the social services budget for next fiscal year. Our budget is not complicated. The majority of the budget goes towards the 5 professionals that you see here that work towards offering support and programs that can then hopefully bring self-sustainability and well-being to our residents that are being affected by a social economic crisis. And as we know, since COVID, that's been pretty evident across the board in this economy. If you notice, we have 1 office coordinator, 40 hours. We have a program volunteer coordinator at 40 hours. That position's only a couple years old and has really produced a lot of work, which I'll show you in a second, when it comes to the food bank primarily. And the other 3, including the director, are social workers, and I'm excited to say that all of us are licensed. So, that's a pretty special thing, I think, at least for my profession. So, get this right side great. The one thing I want to just point out in the budget, you may notice from this year to last year, one of our social workers, our post-crisis navigator, which has basically been our full-time social worker for the last 20-something years, but we just added the crisis navigator again as a way to offset issues we saw arising through COVID. It says $1, and that's because we still have the ARPA funds available as it was last year to offset that. So that position is still there.
Ivana, because you brought that up now.
Yep.
The town, through the town council, board of finance, and then obviously we went through a town meeting, kind of triple ways to make sure that our public was assured of how we use the American Relief Funds. So in your department, not only were we able to get a crisis navigator or a crisis advocate, as we all talked about, you brought here, she's first line of defense when it comes to domestic violence,
Correct.
working with now Officer Schneider.
Mm-hmm.
How has that been so far?
So it's been phenomenal, to be honest with you. There's the direct and then there's the indirect. And as I get through these slides, I'm going to show you both. And the amount, well, let me just jump to the next one. The amount of work that we're able to do, traditionally social services, they're a quick intervention. They assess, they intervene, they provide programs, and we try to connect to services using our partners. And the volume that we do, we're sometimes, it doesn't lend itself to a lot of follow-up. To be able, and one of the things is because the full-time social worker was always half social work, half food bank, and volunteer coordinator. And then, of course, the director did other direct service and was the director. So as we notice that there's a lot more folks out there that have multi-layer crises going on, where they come in and we're trying to assess and intervene and offer them financial crisis. That's usually what brings them through the door. But then as we're doing that, we realize there's other things in their way, there's other obstacles. The biggest part is usually something related to a relationship. We have known, I think it's about, I'm going to get my stats probably wrong, but I would say about, since COVID, maybe between 15 and 20% increase in domestic violence alone, which can be a broad, those statistics might be what we think of as domestic violence, but what we see also is we don't just see domestic violence in terms of the violence that the police see. They triage, they bring it over to the Center for Education, which is the Women's Center. They do safety plans. They regulate a situation to the point where it's not elevated. And then once that's in there, well, then the person is there's still a disruption. And now what you have is that you've got a disruption to a household. Sometimes there's kids involved. And now they're facing everything they have to do on their own. Maybe they need to get a job or another job. They're handling all the bills. You know, the person who's inflicted the situation is removed, but with them, they take a lot of security, financial security, and that stability, and it's put on one person. So that's where we can step in, and to have that opportunity to deal with that and then go back and check in. Between the two, I've had 2 social workers now in that position in the last couple of years. It's over 1,000 moments of engagement. And what that means is they're checking in maybe daily or maybe weekly based on the high crisis. Then they're referring and calling crisis, mental health, medical health, going back to other, maybe helping them with job applications, doing things that on their own, they may not be able to succeed. Sometimes the more stress we have and the more challenges we have in our lives, it becomes harder to just take those steps.
I know, Ivana, too, staying on that, kind of that theme. Again, American Relief Funds were given for the Hope Fund,
Yes.
right? How has that been helpful and impactful? Actually, both of our funds, right? That you manage. How have those American Relief Funds been beneficial to our community here in New Milford?
So I'm going to jump over to this one here, and I'll just show you down to the left orange column of the slide, all the way to the bottom. We were fortunate enough to receive $200,000 for the Good Samaritan and Hope Fund combined, so it's $1,000 per each. Up to like the first week of February, we've been able to assist local folks with over $104,000. And we've had about, did I write this down correctly? About a third, at least a third of the over 100 applicants that we've had are folks we've never seen before. Folks that just have not come to us. Some of them are over income for other programs that we have no control over because they're regulated by state or other nonprofits that set the limits. So this has been a tremendous opportunity to assist our basically our workforce families, to assist our low to moderate. When I started over many years ago, everyone thought, oh, social services works with low income or poverty line. And that is a huge misnomer. Then it was like, oh, then you work with the working poor. But that word poor was still there, or the word poverty was still there. And that's still not the case. Yes, we do. But there are so many folks living in our community that are, they're moderate income. They're getting by. You know, we're all kind of doing that. But when something comes about that pushes us off our path, we have to come back to it. And for some of them, it's a quick hop to the left and you're back on. And for others, it takes a bit of a winding path. And to have funds like that we were not restricted to the amount of income. it allowed us to help a lot more folks. Some of the folks came in and we were like, you can be helped. Because there are programs out there that have recognized. One of our favorite partners around this time of year is Operation Fuel. And they recognized that years ago, and they took what the state's always capped at, their highest level, and they bumped it another 15%. So they were at 75% of state median income. And we went, yeah, let's go for it, because we've seen those folks. We have our friends at United Way who had done an extensive study with Alice, and their chart is amazing. They break it down by not just the amount of income. They're not blind to income, they're also blind to the type of family that it is. And one thing they recognize are our working families who are trying to get to work, but they have a child that needs daycare, they have transportation costs. They're probably traveling the farthest. I don't know about you, but the older I got, I wanted a job closer to home. But when I was young, you go where the money is. But they're traveling the farthest. They're using the most gas. They've got childcare expenses, and our friends at United Way also recognize that. So, sorry for a long-winded answer, but it's really important to know that this has just opened up doors for a lot of
Just
folks.
for those in the audience and those that are watching tonight, as well as our council and board of finance members, with the successes that you've had as we've reconfigured the department, we've used American Relief Funds for helping with that, offsetting that, and then these funds that are helping not only those most vulnerable, but those even a little bit more above those thresholds to stabilize them and hopefully get them back on their feet and moving forward. What would you have envisioned if we didn't give you those funds? What would that be like?
Something that I think I've seen before, after, say, 2010, where some folks came in and we really, really had to think out of the box and struggle to try to help them in a way where it feels impactful. We're blessed with the food bank, but when someone can't pay their mortgage or pay that car payment, they're, as much as they can use the food bank, it's not going to quite offset it enough. So it gives us an opportunity to, something that we've seen, it gives an opportunity for folks that set these guidelines and us down here that see reality. It's closed the bridge, and it's allowed more people to get on it and be helped and find their way back off and then back on their life and their trajectories back.
Can you briefly touch upon the additional 1,000 points of touches of those in our community that really need the assistance? And that's due to the reconfiguring of the department. Bringing on Wanda, right, who now basically manages your food bank.
Right.
And in so doing, as we talked about here on the council, and to your group, Walter, what we thought was amazing was by just doing that and having Wanda now really manage the food bank, then that took a social worker that was doing that half to 3/4 of her time, now can be 100% time really working on what she wants and should be, which is helping those in needs in our community. So,
right. And
great job.
the social workers are still doing, both of these social workers are still in some ways have two jobs or two main responsibilities. Our primary mission is to connect people mostly to financial resources, to connect into those programs, energy assistance primarily, rental assistance, job connections, things like that. And that takes a lot of time to do that. So when they're not running through applications, then they're able to do that. And in the next slide, I'll go into a little bit more, because I do want to include a little bit of a discussion with the diverse community advocate, who's also been amazing in terms of, she's got a separate kind of crisis client that she works with, but there's definitely overlap, of course. But I wanted to bring your attention, we'll kind of work our way from right to left, but with the food bank alone, we've seen over, since the year passed, last fiscal year, we fed over 2,000 residents. The year before that, 17. And prior to COVID, it was like 14 something, okay? So.
That's about, Ivana, for those watching, that's about 8.5% of our total population in the
Yeah.
town of New Milford.
Which one?
Yeah.
Which section are you talking about?
The yellow, so if you look down at the right where it says, the very last line where it says, we fed 259 residents, we served 749 households came through the food bank last year.
34% increase.
A 34% increase from the year before, in terms of volume of people.
What's the unemployment in New Milford?
Not high. It's less
So
than
what the heck
5%,
happened
less
there?
than
Say a
4%.
little about what
What's that?
caused some of that.
I was asking for the
increase.
unemployment in New Milford. It's not 19%.
Unemployment, right now,
No.
unemployment, we are
No,
at
it's under-
3.9,
Yeah,
not
it's under
3.9%.
34%
Yeah.
increase.
Because what you have is again, going back to the majority of the folks that we serve. Now, with the food bank, just keep in mind, it's the one thing where we actually do include our seniors. The food bank is open to seniors, and open to, of course, families with children, disabled adults. So we do have some people who are on fixed incomes.
All New Milford residents, right?
Yes, yes, and Gailersville, of course.
And Sal, what drives those numbers up as well is, in a finance term, you have what's called debt-to-income ratios.
Yeah.
So that's your gross income less your taxes, right? If you have a mortgage, your principal and interest payments. And then your cost of everyday living, your food, your phone, everything else that comes with that, right? Insurance. All of those, due to inflation, have created a tremendous burden on the Alice community and on those in middle class to a little lower. It is destroying them.
I'm looking
The
at
price
my
of-
electric bill.
Exactly. So,
Today, 19% increase.
Yes,
so
and
hence,
you're
so
exactly
hence,
right.
when Ivana and I go through these numbers every week, because they're gonna be the canary in the coal mine. They're gonna be with their numbers in social service and senior center when they come. You're gonna see the demands are continuing to go because those people on the incomes that are like that, when you have a mass rate of increase of inflation as we've had in the last about 2.5 to 3 years, it becomes where they can't afford food anymore.
I understand that.
So now they're coming to the senior center, or coming to social services,
Yeah.
people we've never seen before, correct, Ivana?
Yeah, and just to kind of, I mean, we're 7 months into the fiscal year. We're already at 635 registered families for the food bank. Last year we were at 749.
So we're going to beat that for sure.
I'm suspecting, yeah. I mean,
it's for
we're
sure.
already over 1,800 people, and that's just the food bank alone. But it's a good measure, because what we always say is, when folks come in for food, that tends to be, there's obviously other things going on. No one really walks through the door going, I'm fine. I've paid my mortgage, I've paid all my bills. Gee, I just need a little help with my grocery bill. That's not usually what happens. So we're fortunate enough to have this wonderful program right there, because basically the food bank's a wraparound service. Because of the connection to the food, to social services, they can come in, they use the food bank, and then all of a sudden they're realizing, there's other programs out there. Santa Fund alone, and this is another bonus, not just has our Wanda, our program coordinator, with the attention she's able to give to the food bank, not only have we been able to service hundreds of more people, we're now averaging over 200. We do not go below 200. I haven't seen numbers like that consistently since those few months of COVID, consistently. And I'm talking since like September, maybe August. So not only is it that, to deal with the volume, still be able to give out tons of food I think it's about 2,000 to 3,000 tons every week, to give out that much food. In addition to that, she's been able to also increase access, which is a big obstacle for a lot of folks. We have working folks that can't come during our Thursday 9 to 4 hours. She's been able to accommodate that. And she's been able to set up times. She stays late if she has to, and she works that in. So it's access. I've seen families come through I haven't seen in years, and it's just wonderful to see them reconnect, because they're still struggling. So the access to services, the flexibility, the amount of food, the amount of attention, all of it's been a bonus. And that's the direct thing. And then, of course, like, you look at our Santa Fund, you look at Thanksgiving this year, we blew our numbers sky high. We did over 500 children. We did over 300 families, 360 families for Thanksgiving. Again, having a designated program coordinator is important because I can't pull the social workers to help me with that. So to have that. I'll jump over just to the left because it's, you know, I one of the few departments I don't have a revenue to share with you. We're not coming in. But I need you guys to understand how we help the economy. Last year, and this is not counting the 104,000 ARPA funds, last year, if you look all the way to the left in the white shape that I can't remember what it is, it's over $440,000 we've contributed to our community, to local businesses, and of course to our families. Energy assistance alone, one thing we're able to measure through energy assistance, which is over 300,000 of that, 341 for energy, 303 was from the state application alone. We're almost at a 50-50 homeowners to renters. It's about 45 to 48% based on whether or not, well, last year actually was interesting. It flipped. We had more homeowners come in for oil assistance because more of the homes are oil. And then it evened itself out when the renters came out for their electric. Even through the, even going back to the Hope Fund, for the ARPA, of the 58,000 just in the Hope Fund ARPA funds we gave out, over 14,000 was for mortgages. And the one thing that we're also seeing that we're really just, this is the beginning, is the last 2 years, the federal government, the state government has been able to provide a lot of funds to people or protections. One reason why we haven't had as many, the mortgage folks come in for assistance for ARPA yet is because they were protected for so long from foreclosure. The renters were hitting eviction early on. Then My Home CT kicked in. It was a state program that could give homeowners at least $50,000 possibly if they qualified. That recently ended. I think late February, early March was the last time they took those applications. Now some of those people are still in process. Unite CT is technically still open. That helps renters, but it's only open for those that are have court documents and facing an eviction, and that's up to $15,000 of assistance. So it's still kind of there, but in the meantime, other things have dropped. Added benefits for food for children have dropped. Of course, Connecticut, we did just benefit about 2 months into the school year with free lunch and free breakfast. But it doesn't necessarily help on vacation or summer breaks. So there's a lot of shifting, and it goes back to, something that you alluded to is that, and so did the mayor, is that we're not seeing this increase in wages. We have people that are working. We have a lot of people that are working, but their wages pretty much stay right about here, and they do this. But our inflation are cause all prices to go up like this. And so you've got.
I work and I see inflation.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Out of the 440 that
and-
you have, how much of that is from the from Hartford, from the Connecticut government? Is there any money in there?
Yes, 303, because that was from the energy program.
303,000 that we
303,000.
physically got for people to help in New Milford.
Correct. We do the applications with them. We follow through with the applications. If they're denied, we figure out why. So it's a lot of work that goes into to get these folks approved. And then we try to make sure by follow-up with them is that they access all the award that they have before time runs out.
Was that enough?
It benefited them last year. This year, not enough. This year, it was dropped. So it'll be interesting to see where our numbers lie. Like, I may come back to you guys next year, and I might tell you that we did more applications, but you may see that that the award money was less, because that's what happened this year. That was another program that got drastically hit. So we've been using Community Fuel Bank and Operation Fuel, and Operation Fuel is an emergency fund that kicks in kind of for those that are eligible after the state, people run out of those state funds. And because people run out so quickly, because there wasn't as much money, We've already put in about 20 applications in just the last few weeks. And they're so flooded statewide that we have about 2/3 of those applications have been pending for 3 weeks now.
It's their regulations that'll make us bankrupt, so they better come up with someone, obviously, I don't know how.
So,
anyway.
but the fact is that so we always are thinking inside and outside the box to assist these folks. We're very fortunate in Milford to have a community fuel bank. Feel very fortunate that this community has that. So again, we're able to help our folks so they can, and again, the senior center is doing the same thing. They have access to those funds too. So we're helping seniors, we're helping families with children.
That's
we're
local
helping
community, right?
the community fuel bank, yeah. But the fact is that we're having to do this. Now we'll see. More money was just added. It hasn't been distributed yet, but the state did just pass about $9 million, I think, towards the state alone. So we shall see. So hopefully, and that's nice. It's nice to see that the state realizes and that this is impacting the entire
They'll get the money
economy
somehow else.
and a lot of workforce families. And again, that's what we're speaking of. But that's what I wanted to make. And very quickly, just the post-crisis and diverse community advocate. Between the two of them, they've been following for the last several months. And this is just our new post-crisis navigator since September. And of course, Maria, who works with, a lot with our Spanish and Portuguese population, in addition to, of course, everyone else. They have a combined caseload of 150. It is pretty much about 20 to 25 hours of their time is devoted towards that. And those are just most of the agencies that they've engaged with. So when I say moments of engagement, referral, advocacy, and in-depth follow-through, it's with a lot of those agencies. Maria did probably like 50 ICT applications alone for some of her clients. And I mean like actually soup to nuts. And then of course, it's just who we serve. If you guys wonder, do we serve, people working in the schools? Yes, we do. Do we serve factory workers, postal carriers, grocery stores, landscapers, self-employed people, business owners? Yes, we do. Because again, we
Serve
don't.
all people, and those are people we all know.
Yes, that is true. So I appreciate your time.
Katie?
I think you do a great job with what you have. I'm really, really pleased that you moved Wanda over because it makes things so much easier for the two social workers, but also I think the food bank has improved 100%. Not that there was anything wrong with it before, but now that she's come up with
We had the
ways
time to put into
to
it.
serve people at different times and makes the process, and she's always smiling. So, and your volunteers are great too. So you all do I'm a little biased, but you all do a great job.
But you've seen it in action, and
Yes,
I do
indeed.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Alex?
Thank you. Yes, amazing work, and I know it never ends. So our budget for the current year funded 4 people because ARPA funds budgeted for the 5th. Now you have the money left in order to have that 5th person funded this year, so we're still funding out of our budget 4 people
For this year.
for the coming year.
Yes, for the coming year.
So when do you anticipate having to put that 5th person into the budget again?
Year after?
Year after?
Yep.
The year after.
Okay. I just think it's really important to keep your programs intact, and I'm really hoping that we find a way to make sure that those 5 people get funded properly.
Thank
At
you.
least.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, the work is there. The work is
Kind
there.
of piggybacking off of that. So we did have some people say that we should have a 0% budget. So to get you to a 0%, we'd go from your request of 255,731 down to 238,671.64. You and I have talked about this, right? So what would you have to let go to reach that 0% increase?
2 of the major things we would have to let go is it would compromise the amount of follow-through we're able to do for folks that we basically would be doing applications and almost like assembly line. Come in, come out, there you go, see what you can do. And not be able to do that follow-through for those folks that are invested in this community and need a little more time because of the crisis financially, emotionally, or health-wise. In addition to that, we would lose the accessibility to the food bank. We would not be able to be open and have the opportunity to serve people basically 5 days a week with the food, nor would we be able to handle the organization of all the donations and everything like that.
As more needs happen, as we see.
Yeah,
On the projector that you just put out there, correct?
yeah, yeah.
And lastly, for me, Ivana, and then I'll turn it back over one more time. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank your team enough, because as we went through and we really rechanged and reconfigured your organization,
Yeah.
right? And to see by thinking outside the box, because some people think, Ivana, especially last year, we couldn't do it. They're like, there's no way you could get social workers. There's no way. Remember that? I do. There's no way we can make this work. Wow. Amazing job, Ivana,
Yeah.
that you guys done. Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah,
Amazing
it's
work.
benefited. Instead of trying to find a new social worker, we took devoted social workers who said, I really want to just do social work and do it right. And we gave them an opportunity to do it to the fullest of their ability, and it's paid off.
Amazing.
It's paid off. So,
Appreciate it.
thank you guys.
Mary Jane?
Yep.
You do an amazing job.
Thanks.
And your job just seems like over the last few years has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And I mean, you guys really deserve a lot of credit for what you do. What I would really love to see is to see their salaries increased at some point. I don't know when we're going to be talking about
We
salaries.
increase them every year, Mary Jane.
Well, more than
And again,
what they-
as you said last year, we wouldn't get anybody. Got people right here.
Well, you're lucky because
I don't
these
think we're
people-
lucky. I think it's great leadership that we have in our social
Well-
services team. Great leadership we
Maybe
have
that's
in our
part
youth
of it,
agency.
but-
Great leadership that we have in our senior center
Excuse me,
team.
I'm speaking. Could you just
Absolutely not,
shut up
because you
for a
make a
second?
false narrative and I'm
No,
gonna
not
correct
making
it.
a false narrative. I'm just saying, for the amount of education, for the licensing that they go through, I would really love to see their salaries increased. Amen. That's it. Okay?
And Mary Jane, that's awesome. Appreciate it.
Because
we definitely
they
can't do
deserve
that
it.
with 0% increase in the budget.
I'm
Definitely
not-
can't do
no,
that.
I'm not advocating a 0% increase. I
Awesome.
didn't say that. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
but they do deserve a lot more than what they're getting. I'm sorry. So.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi,
Awesome.
this is
Chris?
Yep, I don't really have a question for Ivana, but I think I just want to, I think, make a statement and put things in the record that, Ivana, I appreciate you and your team, and I know, there are some people out there that think social services is kind of like an Oprah giveaway. Oh, free fuel for you and free food for you, and I know you and your team work really hard at each individual case, looking at the need, searching for programs, educating people on maybe how to make better financial decisions, and you do all this while I think being very efficient with what you do. I think I heard earlier you impact roughly 8% of our population. Your budget equals roughly 0.5% of the town budget. So I appreciate, how well you and your team do with what we have, and without the work you're doing, the mayor loves to call us the best town in the USA, and he's right. But we have no chance of being that without the work that you and your staff do each and every day. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate
Any
that.
other questions for Ivana? Ivana, thank you.
Okay,
very
thanks for your
much.
time, everyone.
Yeah, you gotta get over there. Okay, next up is Jason and the youth agency. Jason? And for those, we're gonna start off with are you gonna go with revenue first, Jason, or expenditure?
We could do either, because there's 3 organizations, so we could do revenues. and
Revenue
stuff like
first,
that.
okay. Page 32 for everybody.
Good evening, everyone. Jason O'Connor, Executive Director of the New Milford Youth Agency. Thank you, Town Council. Thank you, Board of Finance. It's always a privilege to be up here and to really speak on this. For those who don't know who and what the Youth Agency is, we are made up of 11 full-time staff and up to yearly about 55 part-time employees that come through our childcare, our student video, and other opportunities at the agency. Through these various programs, we offer prevention, intervention, counseling services, individual mentoring services, and it's to a point that our agency and our staff are being recognized regionally and statewide. I say that because for the last 2 years, I was acting chapter rep for the Connecticut Youth Services Association. And that is basically recognition and notice for the work that the staff does and what we're accomplishing over here in New Milford. Most recently in October, I've now become a vice president of Connecticut Youth Services Association. My colleague is the Hartford director of their youth services. So Greatest Town is finally getting that recognition here, and we're finally getting the merit that our staff and our youth services, Youth Service Bureau, and the Town Youth Agency is owed. And so I truly thank our staff. On this list, you see, again, a wide variety of programming that we do. Our largest is our before and after school childcare program, which has its own individual budget that merges into the summer childcare. We have counseling services, workshops for parents and students. We are a juvenile review board, which is the diversion for first-time youthful offenders going through the criminal justice system. And youth employment, like I said, we're probably, if not the largest youth employer in the town of New Milford. And our goal is to work with these youth to make sure they're prepared in their next life, whether it's collegiate, going into the trades, going to work at one of our great town New Milford businesses. But that is our goal, and our mission is to increase the wellness of our youth and families. And we do a lot. So the youth agency has 3 organizations, 104-41900, which is what we're going to start with. 901 is the max, and then 902 is the before and after school childcare program. So for the youth agency revenue, there's one line in this org, and that's our state grant that we get from being a youth service bureau with the state of Connecticut. That breaks down to a $20,000 main grant and a $10,000 enhancement grant, roughly. That's the only source of revenue for this organization. Mayor, would you like me to go to 901? The max is our teen center. That has a line of revenue, and that includes all of our revenue that we get from teen dances, rentals on the weekends, rentals of the kitchen, and any other business down at the max. We put that revenue in this current year we're in and this projected year with the goal as we went from 35 to 40 with us hitting that number. The plan is to, now that we are out of COVID and kind of the stabilization of the rental hall market, teen dances, you name it, the goal is to make sure that we keep hitting this trajectory and then look for onward growth.
And Jason, if I could just
Yeah.
talk for a moment to the council and to those in the audience and watching on TV. First of all, as we meet weekly, I mean, you've done an amazing job at
Thank
the
you, sir.
youth agency. Absolutely amazing. As you'll see more, the way you've kind of pivoted and changed things, and I bring up the max as, before that, we used to have 1 or 2 people that kind of managed the max, and we kind of look at it and said, how can it kind of be where the public can look at it, where it can still be a revenue positive generator as well? So we looked at really a new way to do it, and under Jason's leadership, when you look at the revenues against expenditures, it's very positive. Then on top of that too is we've kind of in some way siloed a responsibility. So before, poor Jason, when we had a kitchen issue, here we have our youth agency director having to go there and clean up the issue. So we've siloed it out where, like any organization, right, you have your real experienced or professionals of that silo. So now we call it facilities. And facilities comes in and takes care of it, which gives Jason much more chances. He does bringing in all these new programs. I know you'll talk about it a little bit later, Jason, but the fact that through COVID, right, we saw mental health
Correct.
issues, right? We saw it in the very beginning.
Yep.
Mental health, isolation, depression. And you set up a mental health clinic free to our public way before most anybody else did.
Correct. So, I know we're jumping. That program, in what the mayor is discussing, is we were able, through the ARPA dollars, to increase our social workers' position from 30 hours to 40 hours. So it was a 10-hour increase. What that has provided since the fall of 2021 is over 40 students benefiting from individual counseling services at no cost to their family, with over 700 sessions provided. So those are 40 students that prior to COVID or during COVID that may have not been able to access that mental health or counseling services, as well as their families. It's in a line that we did not want to have a cost to it. So the mayor and I were meeting. We were seeing those increases of anxiety, depression, conflict, interpersonal relationship issues, familial relationship issues, and that was a direct response. And we're seeing great benefits for our youth and families with that.
You know, Jason, also you guys run a wonderful organization, the Latchkey program, or the before and after care now, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And I know in looking at those numbers, especially COVID, because you guys, for the most part, when you could be, were open
We opened, I
to
think.
serve our residents that had to go to work.
Correct.
Because if they didn't go to work, Ivana and her team would be way more busier trying to keep people in their homes.
Correct. I think when COVID hit, we shut down initially for those, I know this is years ago at this point, thank goodness, but we were back open in May 2020, operating in isolated classrooms. Quite a crazy time to becoming the incoming director of the youth agency, walking into that. But again, the credit is to the staff and the excellence and the heritage of our staff. Many of our site supervisors in this program have been working in the program for 20 years plus. Some of their employee numbers are in the 3 digits. It's just, we have a very good A team over here, and I'm very proud of them.
You know, Jason, another thing, initials that we've done here in New Milford was obviously we have some wonderful child care centers that are here.
Yep.
And they do such a phenomenal job. But a niche that we saw for especially those pre-K students that are going to be going into the system, right?
Yes.
To help them was that you guys set up a pre-K.
Correct.
Reduced hours, obviously,
Yep.
but to help those moms or to help those that don't need a full day but could benefit from those times. And we set that up in Pettibone.
Yep.
And how's that going?
It's phenomenal. That was an opportunity that we could see. There was a need. And going back to the purpose of, again, I said it, but the youth agency acts as a youth service bureau. We are governed under state statute. And one of those major things we're supposed to be doing is looking at the needs of the community, assessing the needs, and offering relevant programming. And through our child care director, Brian Hembrook's work within the landscape of the child care centers in town, working with our schools, we saw there was a growing need. And we were able to open that through a classroom that we had at the agency, and just expanding that offering. So much to the sense that we've been working with the school now. Kindergarten ages are changing, going to have to be 5, and we're going to be kind of the demo site as a neutral site to see if those students, how they can fare. So those are the cool little opportunities we have that a lot of people don't really ever see of what we offer to the town. We offer a lot of in-kind So yes, Mayor, that was part of
I was
it.
saying, speaking of being kind, just as an example, for those that may not know, the youth agency runs the JRB, the Juvenile Review Board, and as we've all experienced, if you watch it on national, because it's just not New Milford, right? You have bullying, you have people teasing people, both online or in person. You have all sorts of emotional distress that causes issues within the schools. So a resource, our school resource officers with Chief Cerruto, working in tandem with Holly Hollander and the district, right? You guys have come up with really a new streamlined way for the Juvenile Review Board. Can you talk a little bit about the successes of the Juvenile Review Board?
So prior to this year, the current year we were in, we were averaging for New Milford about 25, maybe 20 on the low number of referrals to the youth agency for the Juvenile Review Board. And what that is a panel that circles with the student and family. We have members of DCF, members of Waterbury Court, members of the school, community, as well as Stacy Kabasakalian, who is our case manager in that space, who is the go-to and the champion of it. With that, this year alone, we're pushing past 50 mid-year, over double mid-year what we're seeing. And so much to the point is that I've been working with our fellow youth services up in Kent, Housatonic, as well as Waterbury, of trying to gain more case management and more resources to help these families. So yeah, we are seeing that, and it's, I believe, from the growth of our relationships, the success of the program, in getting the diversion first out there.
And I love, Jason, the positivity that you bring to that agency. You know, you have, you know, the youth agency that does your podcast now, and they ask some pretty great questions. The film youngsters doing their PSAs. It's absolutely amazing work that they do there.
And on that note, Mayor, I know I said the state grant is our one source of revenue. The reciprocal expense line for that is the Part Self-Sustaining Youth Grant, 58905. And what that allows us to do is employ youth and employ those students working in that video. But that money also pays for our contracted clinical director, our enrichment coordinator's hours, and then the remaining is $35,000 that we're able to recruit, train, and offer employment opportunities to youth. And those are just direct service hours that we can benefit.
You know, Jason, also there is a youth agency board.
Yep.
And thank you for all of their wonderful efforts in helping drive it. I believe you have some of them here tonight as well.
I have our chair, vice chair, and we have a member over there.
Thank you guys for coming tonight. And then I know one of your goals was, as we were a youth agency, you wanted to get even more involved and become a youth bureau. Can you tell the town, I mean, we are one now. Can you kind of talk to the town council of your vision of a youth bureau and how that's impactful to our community?
With that, the agency through this grant is we've been the acting youth service bureau for the town. But in going back to much of this and the staff that we have is that we're finally getting, not finally, we're getting the recognition. Whether that's chapter representation, whether it's Stacy going up and sitting on Hoosie's JRB because she runs such an amazing JRB down here. You know, again, myself now sitting in a vice president position with the Hartford Youth Services. New Milford is getting to that opportunity where, you know, we're having those conversations with the state reps, state legislators to help that macro level. In putting New Milford, our town of 29,000, in league with the other bigger hitters, whether it's New Haven, Hartford, Bridgeport, Norwalk, Waterbury. And so that influence is growing there.
That's awesome. Any questions for Jason? Yep. Sal?
On a not so happy note, I'd like to know how many of the bad cases you have per school. Like, how many times did you guys have to intervene in all the schools that we have? For instance, with the violence. Like, I'll give you an example. I know there was a teacher assaulted at the high school not too long ago.
Okay.
How many of those cases do you have? Do you track them? And I would like to see something like this in a presentation. It makes a case for us as well, because
Sure.
if you have, I don't know, let's say thousands of those, and it's only 5 of us, of you actually, you cannot handle these things. If it's 5.5, maybe. This kind of thing. So can you talk more about the bad story?
Yeah,
the
so
whole stuff.
The bad stories, as you say, are those instances of those arrests or referrals to the Juvenile Review Board. And those are those numbers that we were hovering around 20 to 25 a year, and now we're over 50 mid-year, and that was in January. I would love to present with Stacy. Stacy provides those numbers with Chief Ceruto, Detective Nick Smith, in working with our SROs at those schools. I don't have that data on me right now, but I can get it to you, Sal. But the over mid-year of our fiscal year we are currently in, it's doubled. And primarily the top offenses are assault, aggravated or assault, breach of peace, substance use, whether it's marijuana or vaping, and those are primarily, I believe, the top 4 off the top of my head.
So would you say if it's doubled, we have a problem in our hands, or in your forecast, not really?
It's to the point where I mentioned that we're looking to get support in the case management through Waterbury and the relationship with Hussey that I was talking about, that we're looking to help alleviate, because yes, over 50 cases is a lot for one person to handle. And when we especially went from a trajectory of 20 to 25 a year. And so it's not so much that there's more incidents, it's that they're coming to the Youth Service Bureau now, instead of going to the court, because Waterbury Court is the de facto, and with the whole diversion and keeping the youth's criminal justice journey, they want it in their own community. They don't want to have to send the family to the court system. As soon as they touch that system, it increases recidivism. So if you can keep the youth in the community, find out whether that act was a family system issue, whether it was a mental health issue, in case of bullying. That's what the whole JRB is for, is to bring those team members together, including the schools, DCF, the courts, Stacy, and youth and family, to have a table on the same level to understand why, and then look moving forward. That's the biggest thing we're here to do.
We're here too, to be honest with you. 50 jump is a 25
and how we
jump.
can prevent that behavior from happening
That's
again.
even better.
So that's the goal. And big kudos to Stacy for that work she does there.
All right.
Any other questions for Jason? Alex, and then Katie?
Thank you. There, on the before and after school care,
Yep.
there's an increase of 40,000.
Yep.
What's that,
So
fees or?
no, so thank you for asking that, because I'm glad I was able to bring that up. So I believe it was the end of this October, maybe even into November, Governor Lamont notified the state that minimum wage was going up to $15.69 from $15. And then as of, I believe, October, they are reassessing it, that living wage index. So we're prepping for another most likely 70-cent increase as of next January as well. So that increase comes down to the minimum wage increase. And by the numbers, there's the two programs. There's the summer, and then there's the school year program. School year numbers, Sarah Noble's program goes up about $2,300 because of minimum wage. Hill and Plain is $1,400, Northville $1,300, Scotticoke close to $700. Multiply that by 41 weeks, you're looking at $241,041.05 just for minimum wage employees. So to answer your question, the increase is driven by minimum wage, as well as 2.5 increases that went to our full-time staff. Those are the increases you see. And the revenue in that account, it's a $0 budget. It's purely self-sustaining. So when you look at our personnel line, that includes all of our full-time employees within that, the part-time employees, and then we have our materials and supplies, self-sustaining. The agency's goal is to bring in the revenue to cover all of our expenses, and we did so last year. We actually made, through the availability of grants, we were able to help. Those grants are not always available. I had that for you. $37,000 roughly in additional revenue from last year. Now again, that was due to some costs we were able to offset. However, those grants always aren't available, and the minimum wage is
And Jason, I'm sorry, Alex. Did you have any other questions?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry. So just kind of piggybacking on that, a couple of things, right? So you'd mentioned that, taking it in a business acumen, you had your revenues, which were $37,000 more than your expenditure for these line items, right? So what did we do with the $37,000? Because that's part of the whole pool of money that would go at the end of the year to two things. Approved by town council, board of finance, and right, Walter?
Yep.
Town meeting. So it went to surplus, which then went to the capital reserve. And what did we do with the capital reserve? Jason, out of the capital reserve, what did we do down at the max?
with that, we were able to go after a replacement for the awning because the awning leaks if you stand under it, as well as a new stove because there's hot and cold spots, and I don't even know where and when we got it.
Year before that, we got brand new coolers
Yep.
that we
got
needed
refrigeration
to keep those things going.
Correct.
Right? And then prefacing that, as you said, we have minimum wage, right? That Governor Lamont decided to push in for a living wage, right? So the people that use our service mainly for latchkey before and after, because those are what we're talking about before. Could you describe like the average person in New Milford that uses that service?
Our program is historically made for the working parent or guardian. That's why you even see in the summer, we are open for 11 and a half hours and for 8 weeks. And that's to ensure that from 7 to 6:30, children are taken care of. So it's historically and primarily for the working parent or guardian.
And Jason, as a premise, we've talked about this a little bit before as we meet weekly, so the premise is we are mandated by new minimum wage numbers. I believe you're probably the largest employer of our youth here in New Milford. So if we were to go to zero on the budget this year, zero, let's do for the latchkey program, what would happen?
Bare bones. We offer a very excellent program. You would see a severe decrease in those youth.
And you wouldn't be able to take as many kids.
No.
And realistically, you and I know you were talking to Holly, maybe there's opportunities as we
grow.
continues our partnerships to grow even more.
Yep. And that's a realistic conversation because the demand is just ever increasing. And I know it's not good business to have a wait list and to turn people away. However, that's usually where we are with both our before and after school as well as our summer program. And it's space.
Katie?
Well, Jason, obviously, you do a wonderful job.
Thank you,
I told
Katie.
you that for I don't know how many years you've been around. I want you to know that having been involved in some of your programs, including the juvenile review panel there when you started it, not only have you used every penny more than wisely, but Stacy and Brian and Maria, all those people, they are just stellar and above
They are.
above average by a lot. The kids who work on the podcasts and the videos, all the things they're learning, it's it's amazing to me. And the before and after school program, right when COVID came, United Way wanted to help. I couldn't imagine in a million years that you could have gotten together what you did and take care of the kids the days that their parents needed to work and they were not in school, and we were doing that alternate day. My goodness, right?
I've honestly forgot about those crazy times.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know you probably liked it, but I
yeah.
just want you to know that it's, to me, there's nobody who would do a better job than your team with you in the charge. And whatever money you have from your revenue is just adding more. It's just exceptional what you do, so.
Thank you, Katie. I
Hope
truly appreciate
hope the
that.
community understands that. I know people whose children have touched the youth agency at any age, and many of them start from pre-K and go on up through high school. They know
then
it.
work
but
for us.
That's right, they go to work for you. But you do a great job.
You know, it's great, Walter.
Yeah. Jason, a few years ago, we've talked about COVID, how it affected the children, both developmentally, emotionally. Has you seen any improvement in that cohort, or are they still emotionally behind, educationally wise?
Yes and no. I think those children will always be affected by that trauma of living in that just unique and kind of ridiculous world it was to live in. However, I want to say, strengths-based as a social worker, children are very resilient, and through youth agencies, through other youth-serving organizations, schools, if we can keep fostering those positive developmental relationships and really enabling the supports, I think we can do a lot to remedy and support that resiliency. Our kids are very impressive, not just here in New Milford, just globally. And I think, yes, that to an extent, there was a lot of kids that had those learning deficits or social deficits. But through their resiliency and just your normal developmental stages as a child, I believe it will be corrected. But I don't have any anecdotal data on that. That's just my personal of what I've seen in our youth groups, our focus conversations. It's just an extreme benefit to be out of that and for them to now grow. And again, I can't say how important it is for anyone in this room who has that space or those opportunities to make that relationship with a youth, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a church leader, a neighbor, to take the time to value their opinion and talk to them and respect them. That will be profound to their development into young adulthood. And that's my one soapbox.
So it's going to be a multi-year project, for lack of a better term.
It is. It's going to be multi-year. It's going to be dynamic. You're going to see a lot of successes, but then you're going to see kids who still, going into adulthood, need their supports.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Any other questions for Jason? Mary Jane?
I don't have a question. I just want to say, New Milford is so lucky to have you as head of the youth agency.
Thank you.
Having watched you progress along through the stages of the youth agency and complete your education and become the director, we're just so lucky. You're doing an amazing job, and you have a huge job. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mary Jane.
I think what's great, Jason and Mary Jane just touched upon it. I mean, you started the youth agency under Mark Mankin. You started out.
I did.
So it was up the farm, right?
I started at the farm in about 2004, and worked a long time farm, managed the farm, youth advocate for a few years, and now the director. So yeah.
Amazing work. Great job.
Thank you all for your
To
support.
you and
the
the
team.
youth agency.
Big
Absolutely.
thank you to the team.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Next, the library. Kathy. And Library 178.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say that it's just been about a year since the library opened, after the renovation project and the reconstruction. So it was February, it was February 19th, so we have about a year open. And we just recently received the Reader's Choice Award for the Litchfield Magazine as #1 library in Litchfield County, so we're very happy about that. I want to thank all who contributed to this budget, and I will, let's see. So, after a year in place, we have collected some of our statistics, and we've had about 77,000 people come through the door at the library.
How many?
77,000.
Since we opened the new library?
Yes, yeah.
Wow. No wonder
So-
why you're on the first page of the Litchfield magazine.
So we circulated 147,000 items. That includes physical and digital. We have offered 643 programs. We've had 19,000 accesses to our Wi-Fi that's open to the public. We have increased our library card holders. I think with the library being closed, we lost a lot of our card holders. So each month we see it go up about 100. We're aiming to go much higher, but we're up to 6,653. We have meeting room use is about 1,300 was used this year. And we're open 49 hours per week, 2 evenings and Saturdays. So, there's a lot you can do at the library. I won't go through all of them, but it's very diverse. You could see anything from art to a llama at the library. But most of all, I think it's really important that it's a place that the community can come. They can walk in, they can take out items, they can study, they can meet other people, they can learn a new skill, they can develop, do any kind of functional thing, like we have people coming in right now for taxes, tax forms. It really covers many different areas. They can research local history. It goes on, the different things that you can do at the library in this space. And then besides having our physical library, we have a digital library that is just growing and growing. So many people that don't even walk in our door are walking into our digital library. And there they can access databases, they can access ebooks, they can access movies, they can access training videos for sports that we have for children. They can research community foundation grants. There's a whole world, Ancestry.com, they can learn a new language. So that's some of our digital library. So for our budget, it's broken up between library materials and supplies, and then we have the personnel part. So contractual maintenance and utilities is slightly increased, mostly because prices have increased. And also going into the first year, we didn't really have a good idea of what it would cost to run this building. So now we have a better idea as far as utilities, what we might have to fix in regards to repair. Facilities, we're very lucky. Facilities doing a lot of the maintenance, but if like the automatic door breaks or things like that, a grandfather clock has to get fixed, that's part of that. Automation, some items we moved out of other into automation because it kind of fit that. So when you think about automation, that's like what makes the library run. It's our catalog, our database, how we catalog items. A lot of the software that we use, our calendar, so people can register, our meeting room software. So that we definitely, every other day I'm getting an email that the databases are increasing, the prices are increasing. So that increased a little bit. Other went down, and then print encompasses all the digital and the print. And when I say print, we have a library of things. You can take out different, it could be objects, kitchen items, tools, Wi-Fi hotspots if you don't have internet at home. So that's that part. And then revenue comes mostly from people coming in to use like office service. They copy, they print, they fax, they get items notarized, and a lot of times they'll pay for lost books or lost items. And in the last few years, it's been a library trend to not charge late fees because they felt like that was decreasing the willingness of people to take to access the library. So we moved away, and we are moving away from fines. So it's very limited. It's more on items that would cost quite a bit of money, like a telescope would have fines. So that would be that part of it. And then as far as personnel, if you look at the longevity, just with the library reopening, we have some staff that have been here for a very long time, but not many, and most of our staff was new. So in this year and a half, new staff came on and were trained and took on the role, and I really commend them because they didn't have a director for a long period of time, and there was a lot to learn in a new building, new software, so they were amazing. So we have 8 full-time, and then we have part-time, and that would be 15 part-time in their hours range. So the salaries are remaining basically flat other than the union increase. And then I do want to mention, though, that although we were above minimum wage, we're a lot less above minimum wage now. And many of our part-time staff are college educated and almost overqualified, I think, for the position, which actually offers a lot to the community because they're able to do so much. And then, so basically, we're asking for a 2.67% increase, and that is mostly because we're dealing with increases in prices and materials, and we did cut back on some things, so that's why we're asking for it. And then our goals are really to increase Saturday programs, increase STEAM programs, increase our children's collection, and increase exposure to digital literacy. So those are our main programs. So,
Kathy,
that's it.
thank you. I see some board members here as well.
Yes.
And your staff. As we came out of COVID and the library being closed now, fully renovated. And one of the things I commend you and the team on is, I know when we speak weekly, your dynamic is the library is more than just books. I mean, books, people that want to rent out a book, you can go there and get one. But I mean, it's all these new wonderful programs that you and the team have brought in and built. The story times you brought back for the young kids, and I know if you could talk a little bit about as our community becomes more diverse, you're now doing story time and you have books in Spanish.
Yes.
If you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. We have added, we've purchased books that are in Spanish, so we do have a Spanish collection, and then we also do have digital services that offer Spanish books as well. And some of the databases will convert language for you, so you can just go into it and it will change the language over, which was really nice, like magazines in that regard. We implemented a bilingual story time, and we do have a staff member now who is bilingual who can really help us when we have patrons coming in, which is very important. And he's able to offer bilingual story time on Saturdays, so he will be doing it this Saturday. So we're happy to see it on the weekends for working families. When I hear from the social services department, the library to me is one place that families, when they utilize the library, they can save thousands of dollars, and they can expose their children to just amazing resources. And if they have the initiative, it's there at their fingertips. So
I think
it's
also,
important.
you touched upon just a second ago is really your efforts, as we were talking, to really entrench the library within the community outside of the 4, 6, 8 walls of the library. And I know you're doing things with social services. You did some things we could talk a little about with the senior center, with doing some book readings, bringing in those clubs and
book
whatnot.
clubs, and we also have a staff member who goes out to some of the senior assisted living to do technology with them. So there's a lot of different things going on. I think if I didn't have the staff that I have, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of that outreach. We're doing many there are many different areas, so.
And I know some of the newer programs that you've done this year. You did the Renaissance Festival. It was pretty cool. And then you reached out to the nonprofits, very successful
We had
community
Global
event
Engagement Day, yeah.
in the Memorial Hall. I happened to go. There's lots and lots of people, which I thought was awesome, and people could see what the nonprofits do.
That's one of the goals for next year, is actually to have like theme days, mostly on Saturdays, and then also like create like annual types of activities that people get to know, and they'll come back every year, and you know, we'll change it up a
And,
little bit.
you know,
but-
those that maybe have not gone to the library yet, if you should, you need to go there. For those watching on TV, is on the second floor, you now have an art gallery,
Yes.
and you're promoting the arts. If you could talk a little bit of that with some of the new wonderful artists that we
Sure,
have, that you guys promote there.
We have a beautiful art space on the second floor, and local artists from New Milford have been hanging their art for 6 to 8 weeks at a time. They have an art opening reception. The public can meet the artist. We're actually looking forward to having the New Milford High School AP class actually have their art in May, so that will be happening. The students will actually put on their own art reception. So we're looking forward to that. We actually have a display cabinet downstairs, and it rotates between different groups, but right now it's actually Sue Ford had her Storytime children they call it miniature art, so they have like little easels, and it's actually, if you look at each one, it's really quite inspiring. There's actually someone made a gazebo, so.
And I know you
was
guys are
happy.
doing a ton of things for our preteens and our teens now. Tons and tons of programs, which again talks holistically about our whole, as a town, kind of helping, especially that segment of our population that's really suffered, as seniors did, with COVID, depression, isolation. So you guys do things like Dungeons and Dragons, and you do all sorts of other cool events that are for our teens and preteens.
For
Can you kind of
teens.
talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Ryan Rebstock is our teen librarian. He's also bilingual. He has started some really interesting programs. There's writers' workshops to improve writing skills. There's Dungeons and Dragons. There's other gaming activities. There's quite a few art workshops. And then there have been some, I would say, like emotional self-help, journaling kind of programs. So he's working very much with the teens. And if anyone hasn't been in the room, you should go and see it, because it's really a nice place for teens to be. They have their own space.
And Kathy, you guys do so many things now, right? True community space. If you could talk a little bit about, for those that don't know, I actually sent somebody up there 2 days ago. You have a thing called the Library of Things.
The Library of Things is a large collection of different items that you can take out. It ranges from, it could be anything, to something to measure the electricity in your house to make sure your house is heating efficient, or it could be cooking pans, it could be games, it could be puzzles, it could be bocce ball, that if you're having a party and you want to take that out for the summer barbecue. But it's just things that maybe, a telescope, it's things that maybe families wouldn't want to purchase, but they could just try it or use it for that week, and then they can reserve it for that time. So we're hoping our Library of Things continues to grow, and more people need to know about it, because I don't think as many people know about it. It's a different, libraries have been moving
I know we
towards
have
that.
storm events. We actually had 2 people call down to the mayor's office looking for, if my electric goes out, I have no Wi-Fi. And I said, well, why don't you call the library? Because they have hotspots.
So we have hotspots in case anyone loses their Wi-Fi. We also are open should someone lose their power, and we haven't lost power, so we'll still be okay. And it's a good place for people to come and charge and just,
And also
feel comfortable.
People like myself, if my kids aren't there, because they know how to do the phones like nobody's business, right, Walter? I'm just like, but you have a great resource technology-wise in the library.
We have
you have classes.
Many staff that can help with a brief question quickly. That you can actually make an appointment and come in. iPhones, anything, iPads, using social media. It could be many different areas. It could be something maybe job related, doing a resume, trying to format it. So there's help for that. We have many people coming in for seniors. I think I can't think of the number exactly this month, but it definitely was up. It has increased, the technology, people coming in to ask about the technology. So this is one area that the library can offer. It's free. You come in, you just, you can
All
get a
sorts
lot
of
of
great
questions
stuff.
asked. Yeah, answered.
Katie?
So Kathy, being involved in the library renovation, we'll call it, on a regular basis, there's two things I want to say. That was step one in turning our library into where it is now, and I know it's going to even get better. But step two is really you. You integrated what goes on in that library with this community in a wonderful way, quickly and deeply. I mean, we never had a library of things. Let's start with that for one. And your whole staff, everything about it, you meshed perfectly in that space. And as you know, you have people who've been there a while and then people who are new. And I just can't say enough about how you managed to really make it seamless from opening to today. It's amazing.
No, thank you. My staff is wonderful.
Absolutely. I mean, I realize that, but you are definitely. You told me when I first met you that you felt that you really liked to have the library be involved in the community, and I thought, well, yeah, sure, doesn't everybody? But you really have done it. So I thank you on behalf of all those people who've used all those things you mentioned, including the rental spaces, the meeting spaces, the little rooms, the art, the beautiful way that the lobby looks. I mean, the whole thing is just great. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And
Thank you.
if I could, before you, Sal, I've got to defer to probably the biggest supporter
Yeah.
on the whole board, I got to say. Walter, you got anything to say?
I love the reading room. It actually has newspapers for crying out loud. And who reads newspapers anymore? I do.
Yes.
And magazines. Outstanding.
You'd be surprised how many people come in there and read.
Yes, and I'm there practically every day, so it's what a great spot. And then that window upstairs, when you're looking out that window,
That's awesome.
that is
That's
incredible.
It's an amazing view.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And we'll have Sal, Walter, and then Joe. Sal?
All right. So one of the I like the programs you guys have. It's awesome. We've been there and all that stuff. Chess tournament. I'm begging for this like there's no tomorrow. So I know. So I don't know. I'm just speaking just to everybody and anybody. And I would like to propose to have one this year or the next, one of the two, somewhere between the next budget, because I'm going to remember that I was ignored again for the next budget. And the tournament I'm proposing is this. We're going to play Mr. Bus over there. He's a great champion. So we're going to go and have a tournament and play him. And that's going to be the main theme. That's going to be the main theme. That's going to be the main theme. So anybody who wants to play chess can come. Play Mr. Bass over there. I'm not going to say Town Councilor Sarwinkowitz if you want to win me too. That's not an issue. But is there any chance we can set something like this?
Yes, we just recently had a chess program.
Tournament.
Not tournament, but it was a program. But we can set up. I think we'd have to set the date, and then we'll have a tournament.
Let's get the date
Look,
now.
Amy says she's all about it.
Let's
Sal, there you go. Look.
Let's get a set date. Let's get a set date now. It's over.
Yes.
Okay. So the first tournament is called Let's Play Mayor Bus. This is the tournament. That's all.
Walter?
Yeah, Kathy, I got a question on your line where you're talking print, non-print. The non-print, is that all audio, visual, videos, and I guess what's left, ebooks?
Excuse me. So the resources that we have physical in the library are we have books, nonfiction, fiction, We have large print, which is an area that I know a lot of people access. We have DVDs, music, there's many magazines, periodicals. But then on the other side, we have what I consider like non-print or digital, and that's when you use your phone or your iPad to access like an e-book or an e-audio book. That is that's one issue that's become a huge issue. And in fact, they just had I had to write letters to the state of Connecticut about it. The digital books are very expensive. They're not like buying a physical book. So the prices for the digital books keeps just going up, and it's affecting libraries, it's affecting colleges. So it is an issue. So when you ask about the digital books, and we've had increasing demand, we have more patrons wanting our digital resources. So we actually did increase that for next year. It's been a challenge to kind of keep up with that.
Follow up on that. You say the digital books are going there. Do you actually own the digital books, or you're actually leasing them for a certain number of downloads?
So how they sell them is you can purchase one that will be forever, and then you can purchase some for just like a 2-year period or a 1-year period, and then you get so many accesses. You can have multiple people can access it at one time, or just one person can access it at a time, and then after the 24 months, you no longer have the book. It's gone. So that's part of the litigation.
That's what's really driving the cost is you buy a print book, it's there for,
Yes.
50 years.
And that's fine if it's a book that's only going to be popular for 2 years and then it just disappears, that's okay. But, when you buy a book, you have a book unless somebody damages it or loses it, it lasts longer. So it's two different worlds with that.
The digital is growing, and what percentage would you say of the new items you
I would say-
purchase are digital?
Well, I would say right now it's 25 to 30% use of our collection,
Okay.
but it is growing.
It could be more.
And it costs more, it's
Yeah,
more
well, that's-
expensive, yeah.
So I want people to realize.
Quick question,
Go ahead.
backing on what he just said.
Joe's it okay?
Never mind.
Okay, Diane?
Real
and then
simple.
Joe.
You said with the digital book, it could be a number of people reading the same, so like a book club?
No, they
No.
have like, so if, say, a real popular book that someone wants to take out, like, you could have where anyone could access it at that time and they could download it immediately. And that's a certain kind of license that you would buy. Other than that, if you say you buy the product, then some of them would only one person could check out, and then the other ones have to be on hold.
I see, okay,
So, and
thank you.
the cost varies depending on what license you purchase.
Okay, all right, thanks.
And those digital books are not stored in your own servers? Are they out in the cloud somewhere? or-
No, they're on a platform. They're on Hoopla
Okay.
right now. They were on another server, but
Joe?
I didn't have a question, I just had a comment. The library's always been very important to me. Sue Ford would come and visit my class when I was in 2nd and 3rd grade in Hill and Plain and Pettibone. I spent hours in the summers playing on the 1980s Apple computers in the children's section and doing the summer reading book club where you'd get a raffle ticket and you could win prizes. As I lived here and had my daughter and started a family, I brought her all the time to do different events, gingerbread making and gingerbread houses and all sorts of things at the library. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad it's better than ever. We recently attended the Renaissance Day and had a ton of fun, so thank you.
great. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say this, two things, but 20 years ago, I think people thought the library was not needed, and there was no support, and a lot of, back and forth, and even myself, I thought, gee, I wonder what they'll ever do with the building if they don't renovate it. But this long-awaited renovation and what you've done, because I came there like when you first opened it, I've been here about 4 or 5 times, and I'm really amazed. And one of my amazing things, the second part, do you really have a notary there?
We do.
Good.
We do. And she's here now.
There she is.
Yes, I've used the notary, thank you.
Yes.
really wonderful job. It's so welcoming, and just, it's amazing. But I do have a question about the budget, because I want to understand a little bit. Your other line, can you give us an idea of a few
Yes.
in your other
So
line?
in the other, it's like operational, it's supplies that we need for cataloging. It's the packaging that maybe we put the library of things in. It's the supplies that we need for in each department. It's our printing paper, it's some of our printing costs. It has some of our marketing fees in there. Also, programs are in there. And I can't say anything about programs without mentioning the Friends of the New Milford Library. They support us greatly in programs. We would not be able to put the programs on that we do without the support of the Friends of New Milford Library. They support us, and they also provide museum passes for us and for the community. So the community can take out museum passes all throughout the area. Families can, have either a lesser fee or a totally free experience at the museums, and they can take advantage of that. So
you're looking for almost $6,000 less on that line?
on that line, yes. Because we tried to figure out different ways to do things.
Okay.
And we felt it was more important to put that money into the resources and the print and the non-print, because that's what our patrons need, and we will figure out the other part of it.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Kathy? Yep, Stephanie. Sure. Stephanie, can you introduce, I know Rhonda, board members here. Can you introduce your staff that's behind you?
Sure. Amy Birkin is our public services librarian.
All those cool messages getting out.
Right.
Yes. Steve is in technical services, responsible for many of our collection getting out, so we can get it out on the floor and people can check it out.
Awesome.
You're gonna catch me. Lynn is the president of the Friends of the New Milford Library.
Without them, we don't have much stuff.
And Tanya is in the children's department. She does some amazing science programs for children, so we look for that, and some team. And then Catherine Delitaz is here. She's our notary and our business manager. And then we have Paul Bartolo from our board of trustees. And I think I have
Thank you to the board. Got Rhonda.
Oh, Rhonda, I didn't see you come in. Okay. So Rhonda Woods, she's our treasurer of our board of trustees. So.
Do we have anybody else in the back? Anybody else? Am I missing anybody? Okay.
What's up with Neil? Neil, stand up. You work in library now? Oh, this shit?
All right.
I missed the boat on that one, all right?
Any other questions for Kathy?
Disregard the question.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The board,
All of you.
friends of the library, employees, thank you very much. Next is Candlewood Lake Authority, the 188.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Martin O'Connor. I am the chair of the Candlewood Lake Authority. Was recently elected on, thank you very much. Whoop. I didn't drop it. Thank you very much. And I have with me tonight the new treasurer, Will Minkle, as well.
Sorry, what was his name?
Will Minkle?
Oh, I thought.
Thanks. I'm pleased to say we're both going to present tonight. We are financially and operationally responsible, and we've got some good news. We're reducing our budget year over year, so I'm pleased to see that. For anyone who doesn't know about the Candlewood Lake Authority, we protect the lake. We have the Marine Patrol, and we also have the science side of the house as well too. So pleased to say things have been working out very, very well. The Marine Patrol has done a great job, and the noise, the volume, everything has been down, and it's been very, very positive. So I will stop there. I'm going to flip it over. Unfortunately, your delegates were not able to make it here tonight. For your reference, Mark Desant, Joe Wadowski, and Steve Kalugi are your 3 delegates. I think you probably know them. They've been on your delegates
An
for,
outstanding job.
yep, for at least
many years.
from 10 to 25 years they've been on board. I'm going to flip it over to Will to run through the numbers, and thank you for your attention, and thank you for supporting the Candlewood Lake Authority.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you, guys. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes on our priorities. By the way, Mark Horvath, our executive director, was ill this evening. He begs your forgiveness for not being here. If you have anything deeper than I can cover, he's happy to follow up with you on that. As Martin said, I'm recently elected the treasurer of Candlewood Lake Authority, and I have 40 years of finance experience in one of the IT companies in this area. So this is my specialty. So just from as Martin said, we have 2 primary missions: public safety, which we execute through our Marine Patrol, and then the ecology side. Just from a priorities point of view, we're trying to make sure we rebalance how we deploy the Marine Patrol. We're not looking to necessarily increase the patrol activities, but really redesignate when they're out on the water. Focus them in the peak times where we know there's a lot of volume, a lot of areas, and where we know there are problem areas such as the islands and where people, moor up together. So we're going to try to do that, as well as occasionally get out on the water during some of the early morning fishing tournaments, just to make people aware that, hey, there is a presence and there are some rules that need to be followed. So that's the primary thing. From the ecology side, obviously, we're all about making sure we have a safe, clean body of water for people to utilize and take advantage of. One of the things that you may have noticed in our budget the last 2 years, we had a large item in there called Lake Management Plan, $15,000 each of the last 2 fiscal years. That is to put in place a long-term plan for managing the lake from an ecology point of view. That is not in this budget. That piece of work has been fully reserved for, and so that is a big item that will save us on a year-to-year basis. But we'll continue to focus on the vegetation issues that have come to light, as well as the zebra mussel activities that have started to become more and more emergent. Just from a financial point of view, obviously we're very sensitive to the fiscal pressures that all the 5 towns are under. Obviously, as delegates from those 5 towns, we're taxpayers as well. And so our request overall is we have a flat budget from a spending point of view, but because of some upside opportunities in revenue, our ask of the 5 municipalities is down 2% year to year. And we feel very comfortable that we can accomplish our mission without jeopardizing that in any way. And so we're glad to do that. And hopefully that trend is something we can continue to do in the future as we move forward. I can go as deep as you'd like on this budget if you'd like, but I know it's been a long evening for you.
Any questions from the council? Katie?
How are the boats?
Yeah.
How are they lasting?
The new boats are doing great. So first off, as you may know, 3 years ago, we got our first new patrol boat.
Yes, I remember.
Last August, we got our second patrol boat. It was a little delayed because of supply chain issues associated with COVID. In October, November, we authorized the 3rd and final patrol boat.
Okay.
And that is being built, and that should be delivered in the spring of 2025. And that will complete our fleet. And they are fantastic.
That's good.
The Marine Patrol love them. They have much more of a presence on the water. They look like an official vehicle as opposed to a repurposed pleasure boat. So they're great. As well as, when you guys roll out your fire boat, many people think, that's the Marine Patrol. Or Danbury does it with theirs. We know it's not, but they have a similar look and feel, and so it's been great. Along the boat subject, we also are anticipating, and you'll see it in the capital plan that we've built here, we have refreshed our 10-year capital plan, so we have a long-term vision of what we need. We have in that capital plan to authorize the purchase of a science and research vessel. It's always been something in that 10-year plan. We've moved it out continually. We just put down a deposit to get in line for that boat. It's fully refundable if we just change our mind, but we are planning in 2 years from now that we will authorize that purchase of that boat.
Great.
and have that in 2026. The other thing that we're planning to do with that is begin to do education programs for the community through a variety of different online mechanisms, and one day we hope to do them on that vessel, on the water, with the public. We think that would be a fantastic thing to bring into the local schools
Yeah.
and show them what's capable as we all talk about STEM. What a great way to do it than this jewel we have out here, and have people take advantage of it. So,
Great.
that answer your question, Katie?
No, that sounds good. Oh, how are the zebra mussels? They down, up?
They're up. They're up. As the water is now coming down, so the drawdown is later than normal because of all the
noticed.
heavy rains. So the shoreline's starting to become visible, and there are more and more zebra mussels than there were previously. We hope with the drawdown, although it's not been that cold, that will knock some of them out. But I think they're here. I don't know that they're going to go away, but we are going to do in the next coming weeks a webinar for the community on zebra mussels and what we can do about it. We
That's
did
great.
one, I think it was 2 years ago. It was very well attended, and we're going to do that again with our director of ecology.
Excellent. Thank you, Will.
I know one of the concerns last year when it came to enforcing,
I'm sorry, Pete?
I know one of the concerns that the council had, as well as the Lake Authority, was the actual recruitment and retainment of your patrol officers.
Yeah.
That had to do with the state DEP not allowing regular sworn officers to carry a firearm.
Right.
How has it been this year as far as recruitment and retaining enough patrol officers for
Yeah,
Canada?
so it's a great question. For those of you who are not familiar with what he's referring to, DEP essentially changed its position on our post-certified official law enforcement individuals could not carry a weapon on the water. And because of the Police Accountability Act, they felt they were at jeopardy by not doing that. Not that they feel like they need a weapon out there, but they felt that they were exposed. Every one of them resigned. We had a decent recruiting class for new officers last year. We offered 11 positions. Only one joined us at the end of the process. So it was a tough year last year. We just went through recruiting again. We did interviews, and we've only obtained 2 more. So staffing is getting tight out there. We anticipate that we will be probably between 23 and 25 officers this year out in the water, which we can do with that. The chief would like more like 30, just to give some of the team a little bit more of a break. So if you know anybody who's interested in that, we would still welcome them. We have not done training yet with DEP. That's still in front of us, so we still have time to react.
Mayor?
Thank you. I'd like to ask you about the invasives and the carp and what you're doing or how that's going.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, blue-green algae in some of your coves.
Okay. So I'm going to give you I'm finance guy, my science guy's not here, so I'm going to give my best shot at it, okay? But I can put you in contact with the right person if I don't answer your question completely. So we had an issue with vegetation disappearing in the lake last year, and obviously one of the contributors to that was the voracious appetite of the sterile grass carp. We think that was not the sole reason, but a big contributor. As you may know, we have DEP has taken some grass carp out of the lake. They caught some and pulled them out. And we did set up what were called exclosures, areas on the lake, 5 different spots around the lake where it was basically a fenced-in area where the fish couldn't get in because we wanted to see if the vegetation would start to grow again, and it did. So we're going to continue to monitor that. That's not going to go away in 1 year, but we were encouraged by that. So we expect to see some more of that go on. By the way, that loss of vegetation also happened in other bodies of water around here that don't have grass carp in it. So it was clearly a contributor to something else, the climate, everything about that. Blue-green algae, we've seen more of it than we thought we would. Why that is, I'm way over my front of my skis, and I don't know. So But I can have our science ecology director call you if you'd like.
That could be a problem health-wise
Yeah,
in the future,
yeah, absolutely.
and maybe a budgetary problem. No, that's the future, but I just wanted to know
Yeah,
where
great.
you were on that.
Super, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Any other question? Diane?
That was my question as well, about the carp and the vegetation. So is it true that the carp kind of got bigger than anticipated and multiplied in numbers, and it's just hard to keep them under control?
Well, they didn't multiply.
You can't multiply?
No, they're sterile.
Oh, they're sterile.
Yeah, they
Well, that's
cannot
not happening
multiply. They can get bigger.
Bigger, okay.
They can get bigger and get bigger appetites, but they cannot multiply.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do think they got big, and they ate maybe a little more than anyone anticipated, but they are not more of them in the lake.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions?
Mayor, just
Yep.
one question.
Chris?
And along the same lines of the vegetation issue, the lack of vegetation, do we understand yet how big of a problem we might have in the lake with the fish population due to the lack of vegetation?
I don't know, Chris. I apologize. I'll have our executive director or science ecology director reach back to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the Kennewood Liquor Board?
All right, great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your support.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
guys.
much.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Walter,
To the town clerk?
what's that? I'm sorry, Town Clerk. Noreen could not make it tonight. She was feeling under the weather. So Town Clerk, will start with the revenues, which I believe is page 12. I forgot. Or is it 14? 14, I apologize. So on 14, you'll see a $4,000 reduction in revenue attributed to historic documents. That's a state grant that we get from 15 to 13,000. And then town clerk that's another grant from 9,000 to 7,000. So that's the reduction. The other municipal fees are the same. And let's move on to, does anybody have any question with revenues?
104.
Okay, we'll go to 10, whoop,
Yeah, Pete, no, sorry,
Yep.
just on revenues,
yep.
if we look beyond last year, it looks like overall revenues are down from 22, 23. Is there, do we know why that is?
Revenues were conveyance fees, was in that particular year, 22 was a big COVID year. So we had, that's that big pool of changing of residents that moved into New Milford and those that sold their properties.
Gotcha. Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions on the revenues? Okay. Next, we're going to move to the expenditure side, which is 104. And here you have on personnel an increase of $6,147, and that was the increase in salaries from 195 to 201. And then your Ask Me overtime is the same. Contractual services are the same. Historic document preservation is up $500. And the yearly grant is up $500, and that's used for vault and records retention. And then the material supplies went from $44,100 to $47,300. And that is when you're looking at, let's see, I believe the LR recording support and supplies went from $35,000 to $40,000. And then it looks like she had a reduction in vital binders from $4,500 to $3,000. And then she went up a little bit in publishing legal notices and ordinance, because those publishing legal notices have gone up to the papers from $2,500 to $3,000. And training and conferences went down $100 from $500 to $400. And the map printer, supplies, and shredders was reduced from 1,500 to 900. And that gave the budget increase from 248,068 to 250,915. Does anybody have any questions on the town clerk budget? Okay.
Good.
All right. So what I'd like to do, Walter, I'll let you do the first recess to Tuesday, February 27th.
Board of Finance recess until Tuesday, the 27th. Thank you. Walter?
And town council will recess to the next meeting of February 27th, 7 p.m. Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.